Hi there, Laura Methot here, coming to you from Nova Scotia, Canada. Let me tell you a little bit about myself before we launch into the content. I'm an organizational behavior analyst, having received my PhD from Western Michigan University. Over my career, I've studied leadership and human performance in laboratory settings, and for the past 25 years as a dedicated scientist practitioner in the consulting world. Since 2018, I've added a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens to my work. Today, I'm going to share a module I use with clients to help them focus on getting results the right way. Improving performance in just one area is rarely easy, which is why trying to achieve multiple performance goals can often feel impossible. The sheer number of metrics and improvement techniques involved in the process can overwhelm even the best of employees, who often get confused by management's well-intended attempts to relay strategic priorities in complex work environments. Employees wonder if they should focus on safety goals, quality goals, production goals, environmental goals, what goals? As they contemplate priorities, they ask, what does management really care about? The cynical answer often being profits. So what can we as OBM practitioners do to improve the performance improvement process? Focusing an organization around a perfect day can help. When we talk about a perfect day, we obviously don't mean it in the literal sense. We're not talking about operational problems magically fixing themselves or equipment that works beyond specifications while employees hold hands singing Kumbaya. We're talking about defining a collection of goals that, if all were met, would comprise success on just one day, and figuring out how do we consistently make that happen every day. I've spent much of my consulting career in heavy industry, so I'll start there. When asking leaders to define a perfect day in their organizations, they typically say something like this: well, nobody gets hurt. We have no environmental incidents. We have no unplanned disruptions or shutdowns. We have good cost management in mind at all times as we meet daily objectives throughout the whole site. And people are inspired to bring their very best. In other words, it's a day of operational excellence. But operational excellence, or OE, is not limited to heavy industry. An equivalence can be found across all other sectors. In financial services, for example, OE incorporates risk management, compliance, and transaction efficiency. In retail, OE relates to inventory management, supply chain efficiency, store operations, and customer service. And in healthcare, OE can be understood as the ability to provide high-quality care in a cost-effective and efficient manner. To define a perfect day in any organization, start by thinking about the value chain. What does the organization need to consistently deliver to succeed over the long term, while also considering the employee experience? Does the organizational culture generate a have to or a want to performance environment? To achieve the perfect day, we need to have a few things in place, starting with a strategy that focuses simultaneously on achieving important business outcomes and employee experience, maintaining an inclusive and inspiring culture. Within that framework, we also need leaders who can translate strategic objectives into team-level outputs and pinpoint the most important behaviors required to drive those outcomes. And finally, to tie it all together, high-performance feedback loops throughout the entire organization that keep everyone focused on the most important things. When leaders view their organizations through these two complementary lenses of culture and business strategy, they position their teams to deliver the best possible outcomes for both employee experience and organizational performance. We use a simple model to guide executive teams through a discovery discussion. It always starts with the business ambition, and it goes something like this. What is your organization trying to achieve? Think about both your strategic business priorities and the kind of culture within which you strive to deliver those achievements. Then we're going to look through all the spans and layers of the organization from the highest enterprise level to the front lines to find where are the teams who contribute the most to strategically important outcomes. And note that in both cases, we're looking for metrics to gauge progress at both the enterprise level and the team level. Now we're ready to pivot over to behavior. And we're going to ask, what special things do key performers on each team need to do to make outstanding results a reality? And we're going to find simple, meaningful indicators of behavior change. Those are going to be very early leading indicators of success. And finally, we look at leader behaviors, asking what are the most important things required of all leaders to empower and enable performers to deliver. To make it simpler, there's a consistent set of what we call foundational leadership behaviors that enable performance improvements. They start with setting clear expectations, it's getting the antecedents in place, observing performance, which is building our fact base so that we have the information necessary to know where barriers are that need to be removed, and we've got the information required to provide consistent, contingent, positive, and constructive feedback at a very high rate. This is where the magic happens. Nothing changes until behavior changes. And in the case of these foundational leadership behaviors, these classes of behavior were derived from research started by Dr. Judy Kamaki in her work on leadership from an operant perspective. Over the years, I found these behaviors to be exceptionally robust and meaningful across industry sectors and all types of organizations. Let's talk through a case example to demonstrate how these models come together to help leaders create the perfect day. We're looking at a North American mining company that underwent expansions in 2 of its mine sites, and they set out on proving runs to test production capacity. The usual approach to these proving runs is for operations to push their assets to the limits in order to get out maximum tonnage. Leaders here saw an opportunity to take a new approach and conduct the runs as an experiment in operational excellence. These leaders decided to shake things up a bit. So let's talk through the slide to find out how. First off, they were very, very precise in how they defined this big ambition, and it was to safely prove maximum production capacity to the expected post-expansion levels while maintaining asset integrity at pre-proving levels. This ambition is important because the historic way of doing it was to make sure that before the proving run, everything, including your legacy assets and your new assets in the expansion, are up to maximal operating efficiency. Then you run it hard for X number of days to prove how much tonnage you get out. And at the end of it, you shut down again and you fix everything. So their business ambition to prove maximum production while also maintaining asset integrity was pretty important. And of course, safety is profoundly important. Local area results, they identified every single person on that site and every single team had objectives related to decreasing the number of daily safety incidents and producing daily tonnage above plan. I pulled out here just 2 performer groups. There were many, many performer groups across this organization, but these 2 historically had been at odds, with production, of course, wanting to push out that final ton and maintenance trying to inject themselves into the situation in order to complete their scheduled maintenance. So everybody in production, on the production teams, committed to optimizing production time by managing their start and stop times. They hadn't been terribly precise about that in the past. And they were to conduct ongoing field risk assessments, which was a way of identifying where might we be at risk for the next piece of work for delivering safe, reliable tons. And any problems that they couldn't fix locally were to be escalated through their problem escalation methodology. Similarly, for maintenance, they committed to optimizing their efficiency through short interval management system. I won't go into exactly what that is, but it was a way to keep them focused, and also conducting those risk assessments for safe, reliable delivery of their maintenance work. The leadership behaviors for the supervisors, and these are both maintenance and operation supervisors, or maintenance and production, and their commitments were to engage crews in shift start performance huddles where they talk about past 24-hour performance and where they may be at risk today. So they've got everybody focused on delivering safe, reliable operations and watching out for what might get in their way. These same leaders also committed to using their core leadership behaviors, which they pinpointed to help them when they're out in the field actively engaging with crews. Remember that setting clear expectations, observing performance, removing barriers, providing feedback. And then for the mid-level and senior managers, they were conducting daily manager-supervisor huddles, identifying performance and production risks, and they visited crew huddles every day around the site to share wins and learnings. So how did this all come together? What happened? Well, it was pretty profound. Bottom lining it, at the end of the proving runs, production at these two mines increased well above the expected post-expansion levels, which was worth big dollars to them. They did this while also setting safety records, best ever safety performance in the history of the company. And the plants, the mines emerged with equipment running in better condition than at the beginning of the challenge. So the experiment in operational effectiveness was a resounding success. Of course, this model is a simplification of often very complex organizational structures. This almost always turns out to be an enlightening discussion that uncovers senior team misalignments. It enables them to craft a compelling statement about their ambitions. It helps them identify the most important parts of their organizations contributing to different results and the behaviors required to succeed, both the workforce behaviors and the leadership behaviors. It puts senior teams in the accountable owner seat while creating space for people throughout the organization to understand the change, what it entails, why it's important, and to have teams craft their own localized versions that collectively add up to enterprise success. It's a dynamic model that easily integrates with the organization's overall business strategy and planning cycles. Using this model, change design always starts with the business and finishes with articulating the leader behaviors that will act as the main catalyst for change. Leaders change first by practicing and refining behaviors defined during the change design. It's daunting for anyone to think about achieving perfection every day, but when leaders set the right context and focus their efforts on creating the right enablers, extraordinary things can be accomplished. The perfect day concept works precisely because it fixes attention on behaviors and the results they produce, and it does so in a way that feels manageable and realistic. Thanks for listening. You got my contact information there. Ask me any questions.